Don't worry, Steve. It'll be all right. Hey everyone, I'm Ryan.
And I'm Steve, and this is 60 Cycle Hum, the guitar buying, selling, modding, breaking, playing, reviewing.
You lost it.
Shoot. The guitar buying, selling, fixing, breaking, trading.
Nope.
Good grief. The guitar buying, hold on.
The guitar buying, selling, trading, fixing, modding, breaking, reviewing, and playing podcast.
Man, you got it.
I did it. It's burned in my brain. Now I've burned it into everyone else's brains. Hey, Steve.
Hey, Ryan.
Brett Johnson wants to know, what do you wish you knew before you bought your first tube amp? I mean, we could apply this to all sorts of gear. We could say, what do you wish you knew before you bought your first guitar? What do you wish you knew before you bought your first pedals?
Right.
You know,
Before I bought my first tube amp, I wish I would have known. Actually, so this is going to sound kind of dumb almost, I feel like. I wish I would have known more about guitar pedals.
That's a good point, because it's like you buy an amp and it does certain things. You're like, I need an amp that does these things, and you don't realize that maybe you could do those things with pedals instead. You don't need the amp to do those things.
I don't think I had. I guess my first overdrive pedal. I'm gonna get back to the amp thing.
Sure.
My first overdrive pedal was the Visual Sound Jekyll and Hyde, which is a great.
I remember you having that thing.
Which is really good.
You had one of the old school ones too.
Yeah, the one that looked like home plate.
Perfect for you.
And that was a really cool pedal. But I think once I had that pedal, it basically meant that I didn't have a reason to own a 40-watt 2-channel tube amp anymore, because my first tube amp was a Fender Hot Rod Deluxe, and I never tried the volume inline trick to like tame it in the effects loop. But I did like buy an like an L-pad style attenuator for it. I cranked it as far down as it could go without being silent, and it was still that allowed me to take that amp from 2 to like 2.5. Because I probably reduced the wattage from like 40 to like 10, and the reality is like a 10-watt tube amp,
it's still loud
through a decent, like not great, but like a decent 12-inch speaker is still crazy loud.
Yeah, I mean, I've got that 5-watt Harmony back there, and it's still enough to upset the family if I cranked it, you know.
And it sounds dumb, but it's like I feel like I very rarely used that amp in places that I needed that much sound. Maybe a couple times, but I think I got that amp. Around the tail end of Harry Backman,
which was a ska band that you were in.
A hornless ska band that I was in.
If your ska band's not horny, I'm not interested. I'm sorry.
It just meant we like upstroked everything and picked it up a lot.
Right.
We never put it down, but we sure did pick it up. And that was it. Like I used it for that band, and I used it at church a lot, but again, freaking 40 watts, man. Like,
yeah, I'm sure you never had the thing up past 1.
Well, and of course, like the whole thing with the Hot Rod Deluxes too is I remember that amp. I did take it into a church when it was like empty. It was just like me and like a sound person. And I actually ran it up to like 6 or 7. And this thing with the Hot Rod Deluxes is after you get past 4, they stop getting louder. Right.
Well, that's a Fender thing. Like my Princetons stop getting louder at like 5. They just get dirtier.
Yeah. So I think I paid like $400 for that amp. And at the time, you could get like champs, and I think you could get a Vibro champ for under 400.
Oh yeah.
You could get a champ for like 250. I wish I would have known enough. And even around that time, like I remember thinking like, oh, I've got this. And then I'm not too long after that being like, what I really want is a deluxe reverb. I've still never owned a deluxe reverb. But I wish I would have like either if I had known that I wanted a deluxe reverb when I was, buying this thing, I wish I would have, saved the extra $100 because you could get them for like, I want to say $500 around that time, and just gotten a deluxe reverb, or, or just gotten like a sub $400 or sub $300 champ or vibro champ for $350.
The thing with the champs and the super low wattage amps is like, yeah, you can push them to dirt really easy and without getting crazy loud. But man, like most of those small amps just have, they have one tone control if you're lucky.
Yeah.
And, I think, if we're talking first tube amps, I needed to have the experience of having like a full EQ section and, master volume and stuff like that.
I mean, there is something to be said for that for sure, right?
Right.
The Vibro Champ, I'm looking at pictures of it. It had 5 knobs. What did those 5 knobs do?
Well, 2 of them were for vibro stuff.
Right. I can't get a good picture.
So it might be volume, bass, and treble.
Volume, bass, treble, speed, and intensity.
Yeah, so that's not too bad.
I knew a guy who had one of these, and this is also why I'm always like, one of the reasons I always hesitate to like just throw EMG stuff. Like now EMG humbuckers, I guess, are easy to be like, oh, it's metal. But I knew a guy who had it was either a champ or a vibro champ. It was like his dad's amp or whatever. And he had a Telecaster that had EMGs in it, but they were like the EMG Ts.
Right.
And that thing sounded sick. Like it was so like it was super twangy, and especially through that little amp. Like
I bet that sounded good.
And again, like for the room that he was in, I was like, this amp is way better, which is the same room that I used to play in. Like this amp is way better than like a freaking 40-watt behemoth of an amp.
Right. That you weren't even getting those tubes even close to warmed up at the volume levels you were doing.
But I get what you're saying. Like, there's something about having the experience of like you have to experience too much amp.
Right.
Before you realize something is too much amp.
I think that is a common like experience for a lot of us, is that a lot of us from our age group, we jumped from our 15-watt practice amps straight into too much amp.
Yeah.
What I wish I'd known, like this is a bit of a sidestep. What I wish I'd known before I bought my first tube amp was that, the PV Bandit trans tube was not actually a tube amp. I thought when I bought that, I thought I was buying a tube amp. So that is something I wish I could go back and tell myself, hey, young Ryan, this is a fine amp and you're getting a good deal on it. It's not a tube amp. I had to take it home.
So your first tube amp wasn't a tube amp.
I bought it thinking it was a tube amp.
What was your first tube amp? Is it
the classic 50? Yeah. So I stayed with PV, but the classic 50 is an interesting story because I went to a shop up in Oceanside that had a basement. And I had money in my pocket to buy that basement. I was like, it's a classic amp. I've heard people say a lot of good things about it. Like I know it's kind of the core inspiration for Marshalls and stuff like that. I wanted to play kind of gritty punk rock sort of stuff, and it sounded like something that might work for that sort of thing. And then the classic 50 was sitting right next to it, used, and it was half the price. And I plugged it in. And it had a gain section and a master volume, and I liked the sound of the reverb on it, and the basement didn't have a lot of that stuff.
Right. And
I was like, I think this fits my needs a lot better. And in a way, I was right. Like, that was a great amp for the band that we had together, your favorite band, which was like a punk outfit. And, I mean, that thing turned all the way up on the clean channel.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, like the dirty channel was fun, like when at lower volume, but like when we were playing outdoors and I could turn up the clean channel all the way, oh my gosh, it sounded so good.
Did you use the dirty channel?
I did.
So that's
but like on the clean channel, turned all the way up, it's now a dirty channel.
Yeah.
But it would do like just the sustained like compressed thing so well with like all the creamy grit and whatnot. But rewinding back to what you're saying, I still think it was too much amp. Like that was too much amp for me for most. Like it was a great like gigging amp for a punk rock thing, like competing with the drum kit outdoors when we played outdoor shows. But I never had that thing probably above 3 or 4 for indoor shows.
Sure.
Like there was no there. It would be ridiculous. A 50-watt amp with a 4x10, like it was way too much.
Yeah.
For most situations. And if I had been smart about it at outdoor shows, I should have just, you know, been relying on the PA anyways.
I think a lot of, I just, you know, when I bought my first amp, I guess I was going off of like suggestions on web forums.
Right.
Again, I think I bought that amp off of somebody on a web forum. Maybe I just bought it off of eBay. I don't remember. You know, everyone said like, oh, the dirt channel's not that good. And it was true. Like the dirt channel and the Hot Rod Deluxe, I found ways to make it good. And actually what I really learned about that amp.
Well, I wonder like subjectively, like, is it not good for like a blues player? Or is it not good for like a high gain sound? Like what did it sound like that made it not good?
The issue with it, and it's kind of deterred me from a lot of amps. Not that I need another amp.
Right.
At this point, but it's something that I looked for when I would shop for amps. I think the big weakness of the Hot Rod Deluxes, at least back then, because they're on like version 4 or version 5 now. And I think mine was basically probably version 2. So version 1 and version 2, I think, are pretty much the same. And then version 3 and 4, they started making some tweaks that people had clamored about, like the fact that the volume knob jumps from, you know, like you're saying, it's a Fender thing, but with the Hot Rod Deluxe, it's even worse. That it goes from like 0 to like 100 from 0.5 to 1.
Right. You need tweezers.
And so the thing that I still think was the weakness on that wasn't that the drive channel necessarily was bad. It's that the drive channel and the clean channel shared EQ. So you could either have a good sounding clean or a good sounding drive, but you couldn't have both. So I actually found like I could dial in like a decent like pop punk kind of like a Reliant K kind of tone, that like more like trebly pop punk guitar sound. But then if I got that dialed in and I wanted to go back to clean, the clean was way too bright. And if I dialed in the clean the way I wanted it, then I've always felt like the dirt channel didn't cut. And what I found worked really well with that is with the Jekyll and Hyde, I would actually run the Jekyll side, which was the tube screamer. Basically, I'd run it with the gain all the way down. So I'd kind of use it the way like people are like, oh, it's just meant to push your amp and like I would run a very low gain setting on a tube screamer effectively into the drive channel of a Hot Rod Deluxe, and that filled in all of the mids that were missing from because the mids were fine on the clean tone, and as soon as you went to the drive, they just got washed out in the compression, and so you needed like a tube screamer to add those back in.
So here's a question I have. If you could go back to that time when you bought your first tube amp, and tell yourself what to buy instead. It could be multiple amps. You could be like, hey, instead of buying this one amp, you need, you know, these 2 amps to fill out what you actually need to do. But it can only be amps that were available at the time. You can't, we can't go back in time and be like, hey kid, here's a Boss Katana, you know?
Yeah, right. Oh man.
I'm looking back, I kind of like, I should have kept the PV Bandit for low volume use.
Yeah.
Because that 1x12, it did just fine for home use and low volume use. It would have done fine for like in room with a drum kit sort of practice. And then, man, I don't know for like a gigging amp. But the Classic 50, the problem with it was so heavy.
Yeah.
And it was mostly overkill. But then, like, you know, you're chasing features, and it's what was available back then. I'm trying to think of what else was available back then for that kind of money, and it's hard.
And that's the issue is, like I said, I know there was some vintage Fendery stuff. I think maybe...
Like, I wish I had had a Princeton a lot earlier, because that's an amp that I've actually really bonded with and, like, tonally, it's a great pedal platform. And, but you know, they're not great gigging amps, especially for the projects that we were working on.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Princeton would have been crushed.
Oh, totally. It wouldn't have held up at all. It's hard. It's really hard looking back. Like, I almost wonder if I did make the right decision with the Classic 50.
And I think, you know, the other option, I guess I forgot these existed. The other amp in the Hot Rod line that was also super popular at the time, but it was only one channel, was the Blues Junior.
Right.
Blues Junior sounds fine. It's a little darker toned, but again, like, I thought I needed a second channel, and all the Blues Junior has, it has a fat switch. It kind of like, it's kind of like a little bit of a boost. So if you're like running the amp hot, then you hit that, and I guess maybe you're pushing into a little bit of drive. But for the most part, it's kind of just like a lead switch. So like your solos jump out, but you're not really like, you're still not that big. So, you know,
I mean,
I don't know.
Looking back, I think I paid $400 for that Classic 50.
Yeah. Yeah.
The downsides were sometimes it was too much amp. And because of that, I was carrying around more weight than I needed to and a bulkier amp than I needed to. Honestly,
you were staying in shape, Ryan.
I was staying in shape. Maybe instead of the 4x10, I should have done the 2x12 version of the Classic 50 just to save on weight and size.
I don't think it was that much lighter.
Well, they were smaller. I'll say they were smaller.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there was something so physically imposing about the 4x10 that I connected with. It's really hard to go back in time in our memory and like figure out what could have been done differently, especially when something became such a key part of our rigs.
Yeah, I did so many things to try to, you know, I would show up at different places with the Hot Rod Deluxe and just drove people insane.
It sounds like that was not the ideal amp for you.
It's probably not the ideal amp for like anyone.
For most people.
Playing at a church that has less than like 200, like 200 people in it. Like, it doesn't really do that great in like the long haul style building. It's very directional.
Oh yeah, those things were laser beams.
And the reality, you know,
that was what was nice about the 4x10 is that it would really kind of fill out a space.
Yeah. And in some ways, like, I almost wonder if like a Hot Rod DeVille would have even been a better amp than like the Deluxe, even though it's 60 watts.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like none of the like I said, Blues Junior, PV Classic 30. I think I always wanted to try a PV Classic 20, but they were very rare.
Yeah, it's hard to find those. Adam has a 30, but you know, honestly, I think going back in time, because I bought my tube amp because I was on internet forums. It's like, oh, you have to get tube because tube breakup and stuff like that. But when you're going too big with an amp, like you very rarely get to experience that. Like the times that I'm talking about, like playing outdoors at skate parks and stuff, where I actually got to crank the clean channel on the Classic 50 was the first times I actually got to mess around with actual driven hot tubes.
Right.
I wish that when I bought the Classic 50 and then sold the Bandit, I wish I'd taken the money from the Bandit and went and bought like a Champ, a Vibra Champ, a sub 15 watt tube amp of some kind, so that I could have experienced, you know, those tube dynamics at reasonable volume, where it wasn't like dare volumes, you know, like personal injury volumes, so that I could have experienced what people were really talking about when they were, you know, talking on online forums about what tubes do. Because as far as I could tell, when I got the Classic 50, it was just as clean as the trans tube Bandit, you know? Because I wasn't going to turn it up that loud at home. I didn't have an attenuator. I didn't even know about attenuators, you know?
When did you, I'll throw this out. Well, yeah, I'll throw this out. I'll say, I think the amp that I would have liked, I think I've tried one once. But I definitely didn't know about it when I bought the Hot Rod Deluxe, is the PV Bravo. PV Bravo is a little 25 watt 1x12.
I don't know if I know that one.
It's got like a decent like mid-high gain from what I understand. They're supposed to be pretty cool, though.
What I always wanted was the PV Delta King.
That's a 1x15.
Has a 1x15 in it.
But what I was going to say is
PV Bravo, you said.
PV Bravo.
Oh, interesting. It's an old Silver Stripe.
Yeah, yeah. And they're like kind of a secret weapon amp. Co from the Flippin' Flippers has one. And even like 10, 15 years ago, I was seeing people talk about them on forums about like, you got to go find these old amps. And you could, the price, it's interesting. I was seeing them on shop on the.
Oh, it's got an ultra gain on there.
Yeah. So it actually will do like a 25 watt, but high gain. And I think it's part of like that Silver Stripe Ultra series. But again, 25 watts.
Okay. We've got a clean gain here, which is also labeled level. You've got a 3-band EQ, a bright switch, a channel switch. You have your ultra gain. Your voicing for the ultra gain, which is bottom, body, and edge, also just probably a 3-band EQ. A reverb, which I'm assuming is a spring reverb, and it has that super tough looking like rhino lining Tolex, and the silver stripe and the blue stripe on the control panel. It's handsome looking. Like, it's weird to be nostalgic for that era of, what was pawn shop PV when we were kids.
Yeah, and they're like 350, 400 now. Like the prices on them haven't. I feel like
this Reddit post
that
this picture came from said pawn shop score $96.
Good grief!
But I'm seeing them elsewhere right now on Reverb. They're in the mid to high 300s.
Yeah. Which if they're in the mid to high 300s now, they would have been like way cheaper.
Well, that's on Reverb. That's Reverb prices.
20 years ago.
I want to see a picture of the back. Are they a tube amp?
Yeah.
I'm not seeing tubes. I've seen some transformers, but
I think they're like up.
Are they internal?
In the thing, but they're definitely tube amps.
Here's your gut shot. Yep, there's your tubes. They're inside the tray, laying flat.
Yeah, so they're probably a mess to replace. But
well, yeah, but it's probably not that difficult. Like there's definitely, I have amps in my collection that are it would be tricky to change tubes on compared to the standard open back Fender sort of layout.
Yeah. So I maybe something like that. I think about.
You said it was a 40-watt amp?
25 watts.
That's a 25-watt
so
amp? And it's got ultra gain?
Yeah. It's still going to be like just as loud as a 40-watt amp.
Oh yeah, that's definitely punkable, Yeah. And with, I'm sure it has.
You got ultra gain.
So. It has one of those, PV Sheffields in it or something, or a Black Widow or something. It probably has sparkling clean.
I know Brian
headroom on it.
Brian Gower from the Tone Jerks had played Co's and was just going like on and on about how good of an amp it was, and it was just this killer little 1x12.
I know it looks like I'm in a huge space here where I can just stack up stuff. I really don't have that much stuff to store extra things. I wish I had like a barn or something where I could just collect amps like that.
Yeah.
And use them as different flavors for the recording that I'm never doing, the albums I'm never writing. But like, I want to try one of those now.
I kind of feel like the other side of this, and I guess it.
What if it's like a secret, like Mesa Boogie Destroyer or something? Like a secret Marshall.
I think it kind of was.
Right.
Like it was like supposed to be because I always thought the PV Ultra, like at least by the time they got to like the Ultra that was a contemporary with the 5150, not the 5152.
Right.
But the 5150.
The 5150 as well.
Yeah. The 5150 also. By the time they got to that one, I felt like the cleans were really good on, and that was like a 100-watt head. I thought the cleans were like really good. So, I mean, I would expect decent cleans. I think there's just like, you hear about the Fender chime, and then now, people are like, well, the Hot Rod doesn't even do the Fender chime. It does its own thing. And you're like, I kind of feel like, though, I guess my perspective back then was like I worked retail and I made $750 an hour or whatever, $725.
You made $750 an hour?
Yeah. $750 an hour.
I started in the minimum wage world where it was in the fives. Like I think I started out $5.75.
I think minimum wage when I started was $6.25 or $6.50. Oh my gosh! In hindsight, is just like,
oh, it took me forever to raise the money to buy that Classic 50. For fun.
So,
like I said, I had money in my pocket for a bassman, and so
right.
I had I had been saving for a long time.
So I guess the way I'm thinking about it is it's like, I don't want to say for your first tube amp you should just buy the one that you want, but like,
we do have to put a bow on this, don't we?
I'm thinking about like the number of amps I've owned that either I didn't try. Like I had remember that Carvin? I had a Carvin MTS for like a week,
right?
Which I bought to sell, and I just thought it wasn't good.
Well, here, let's do a basic guide. If you're gonna be playing with the drummer, what's the minimum watts that someone should have, assuming it's gonna be a 1x12?
Probably like 20.
I don't know, because the Princetons are like they're in the high teens.
I'm thinking about like what kind of drummer, I guess.
I'm kind of feeling like a 30 to 40 watt amp is appropriate if you're going to do like a loud drumming situation. If you're playing in a jazz trio or something like that, you could do a Princeton.
Sure. Sure.
If you don't need to be sparkling
well,
clean.
I'm thinking 20 because like the Deluxe is a 20. Deluxe
Sure.
is 22 watts.
Yeah, you know what? Like 20, like mid 20s to mid 30s, I think that's like your bare minimum.
And then so much, I mean, it's so hard to say too, because so much of that's dependent on design.
It's dependent on genre as well. Do you need like big low end headroom and stuff?
You know, would you ever think an AC30 is a quiet amp?
No.
But it's 30 watts.
Yeah.
They just have like ultra efficient speakers in them. Like I think those Alnico Blue.
We can't do it by wattage.
I know.
Like let's just agree that below 20 watts, it's highly suspect that you'll be able to compete with the drummer.
It's really going to depend. But then if you're in a small space, like it doesn't matter how big your amp is. If you're in a small space, you're never going to compete with the drummer.
Right. What you should do is, if you're looking at a specific model amp, go on an online forum somewhere and ask people, hey, I play in a band that's this style. Will this amp keep up with the drummer? And people who own that amp will give you an honest answer. It's not hard to find that information.
Yeah.
So you want to have, you want to be slightly above at least the base amount of power or volume capacity that you need. Mm-hmm. You don't want to be under that, because that's not going to serve you at all. I think other than that, it really just comes down to feature set. Like, are you a high gain player? Then you need an amp that's built around that. Are you a clean, sparkly player? Do you need an amp that is a pedal platform? You need to think about those things. Do you need an effects loop, or are you going to run straight into the front of the amp? Those are like, it's all feature set.
Yeah.
At a certain point, you figure out your minimum wattage that you need, or your minimum volume that people say will work with your situation, and go a little bit above that if you can. Give yourself some extra room, and then you're just figuring out bass features and that are appropriate for the style of music that you're going to play. I think that's the simple recipe.
Yeah,
because the rest is all just experience. Like, you can read about them all you want. You can go and try them in guitar stores, but until you get in with a band, you really don't know like how an amp is actually going to act.
I think if you're in the market to buy your first tube amp, just get a Boss IR 200.
Is that the new IR box thing? Like, honestly, there's probably a lot of kids out there or new players that are buying, modelers and impulse response things, and they're just buying powered cabs. And probably that is actually a great place to start. Because you get a powered cab that has enough power to push what you need, or you're going to run into a PA. And then you have a computer box that is loaded full of all sorts of different sounds, and you're going to learn by using those different models what flavors of amps you actually like.
Right.
I
think legitimately, one, I owned that Hot Rod Deluxe for a while. It served no purpose. It's like a very dumb hindsight thing, because I feel like in 2000, whenever I bought it, like 2002 or whatever, 2001, 2003.
Sure. I'm not going to fight with you.
I don't know. Early 2000s, I never would have thought like, oh yeah, in 20 years, I'm going to want a Champ.
Right.
Yeah.
You technically, don't you have essentially a champ with the wings?
Yeah, kind of. But I feel like if I would have bought a Vibro Champ back then, like there's a chance I would still own it. Oh man,
if I could go back in time, I would buy up every Vibro Champ that I saw because you can store them and flip them.
Yeah, and it's like, Hot Rod Deluxe. I feel like the used price for a Hot Rod Deluxe hasn't changed in 20 years.
No.
But at the same time,
people are going to be buying up Hot Rod Deluxes just to gut the tubes out of them.
Oh my god!
You know, in the future, they'll be like, oh, when all the tube factories shut down, they're just gonna be like, what amps can we buy up cheap to harvest tubes out of?
Yeah. So you do need to buy enough amp, right?
Yeah.
But I think there's also something to be said for like pushing as small as maybe not as small as you can go, but
convenient as you can go. Yeah.
But also like, I don't know. The hot rods existed for so long. It's kind of like, it's the amp that you wouldn't say is a classic. I mean, that's an amp that's been on the market for like
famous.
For like it's 25 years.
Infamous.
Which is
a better kind of famous in a way.
I wouldn't say it's infamous. I would say it's like
ubiquitous.
They don't make them anymore, so they don't make this reference I'm going to make anymore.
Right.
I was going to say it's like the Ford Taurus of.
I was about to make a Ford connection. I was going to say it's like the Ford Probe, but I think Ford Taurus is probably
no. It's the Ford Taurus.
Yeah, it's the like, Ford Taurus of amps. Like that is like perfect.
Nobody cares about them. There's something,
but they're ubiquitous. Like there was a time when you could not drive down the road without seeing a Ford Taurus.
Yeah.
Like they were everywhere. Like I tried guitars through, those amps in stores like over and over again because it was on the floor. It had options. It had a drive section. It had, reverb and stuff like that. So,
and there's nothing wrong with like a mid-size sedan. You're just getting that thing. You're getting a mid-size sedan. Congratulations.
Mm-hmm. It used to be a big bit on the Conan O'Brien show that he drove a Ford Taurus. Like that was a bit in the 90s. I wonder when he retired that or if he still drives it as a bit.
Well, and I say that like this, like somewhere out there's probably a Ford Taurus owners club. And I don't mean like the
tour heads is what they call themselves.
There is the Ford Taurus, was it the Super Overhead, the Super Header, whatever, the SHO.
Oh my gosh, we need a Ford Taurus themed Centaur.
Oh my gosh. There's the SHO model that was like the hot rodded Taurus. But otherwise, like I don't feel like there's ever going to be a market where you're like, man.
You know what? Fender names a bunch of their things after car models. They could have a Taurus amp.
Well, there is a Taurus amp.
Is there?
There was a company, gosh, who was it that had the Taurus? Ampeg, maybe? But anyway, I think Polytone also had a Taurus, but that doesn't matter. My only point is that like there are people who are like, man, I wish I had like an early 90s truck. Right. I wish I want that square frame truck, or I wish I had, an 80s Civic or whatever, like these kind of old weird cars. There's tons of people who are like, oh, I wish I could go get a police Crown Vic, right?
Right.
Like
I always
stuff
wanted
like
one
that,
of those.
right? I don't think there's a lot of people going around like, man, I wish I could find myself a 1997 Ford Taurus.
Ford Taurus Enthusiast Club on Facebook, private group, 7.3.
Yeah, it's private members. Because no one who's in there wants you to know they're in there.
This is the premier. Oh wait, here's another group. Ford Taurus Car Club of America private group, 5,400 members.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm sure they exist. I don't know.
There's the only Taurus club.
Oh my gosh.
And it has 41K members, but I don't think it's about the car.
Oh, okay,
there's a cartoon of a bull.
That's probably a horoscope group.
Ah.
The questions when you try to join is, when is your birthday? So I don't know. That's just what I think of. It's just a very middle of the road. There's nothing cool about it. It's maybe a workhorse, but there's like a lot better things out there that you could get for like $400. But that's a problem with all of these like super mass produced. They work for your what you're doing. I feel like I'm rambling. They work for what you're doing. But at this point, I feel like I put the Fender Hot Rod Deluxe in the same category as all of the other amps that were available then, like the Egnator Tweaker,
right,
or like the Black Star HT series, which the Egnator
Tweakers would probably been a really great option,
or like the Egnator like Tweaker, the Rebel, like that stuff. There's just all of these like mass produced. I don't want to say like, oh, they're PCB, because a lot of amps are PCB. The PCB of
but they were entry price level for the time.
Yeah, and there's a reason.
And they had a bunch of options. They had a bunch of like specs that draw you in, and it's like, you know, jack of all trades sorts of situations with a lot of them.
I even kind of feel like, if I'm being perfectly honest, that, you know, 20 years later, if I had bought a Blues Junior, I could be like, yeah, I had a Blues Junior. Like, that was a cool little amp. Versus like, I had a Hot Rod Deluxe. It weighed 50 pounds, and I could only turn it up to 1.
Right. At least if
and it had a second channel that I couldn't use because it sucked.
At least if you went underpowered, you would have discovered the sweet spots along the way.
Yeah.
You know, instead of when you buy an overpowered amp, then you are stuck kind of down in, you know, the ultra clean, kind of like unaffected by the tube sort of sounds, which is not why you buy a tube amp. You buy a tube amp to push it.
The other part of this I'll say is I feel like back then if you were looking for it.
Can you believe we've been talking about this for 40 minutes?
I think if you were looking for it, we were in a spoiled time for tube amps. Again, Hot Rod Deluxe, Blues Junior, the PV Classic 30, Classic 50.
Well, at the time, solid state was a joke.
Now, the Vox AC15 barely existed at that time.
Right.
But a little later, you had like the Night Train and all this stuff. But I'll just say this, very, very hot, very popular, probably better than a Hot Rod Deluxe. It doesn't look as good as a Hot Rod Deluxe. But this guy right here. Your little monoprice job.
Yeah,
that's gonna get the job done.
I could have never done your favorite band with that amp. It's not loud enough.
No. I mean,
but for home use, like that's a great option right now. I mean, there's people who are reporting, you know, longevity issues with them, but then some people are saying they've had them work for years, no problem. But yeah, like they're $250 for I think it's 20 watt or 15 watt or something like that. Right. And it's full featured, and it's honestly been sounding great. Like right now, that's a really good first tube amp.
And there's a lot of all of the Wang stuff. I think that I've heard.
Oh, you mean Wangs?
Wangs are a lot of fun.
Yeah.
You know I totally get what you mean though. Like, oh, I couldn't have done your favorite band with this amp. But you know, there's well,
it might have just ended up being a different band if we had to play quieter.
Yeah. You demoed something, and somebody commented on it, like about how, I don't know if they said like, oh, this was cool direct or whatever, but I turned it up to 100. I was up to 100 dB this weekend, and I never know where. When people say that, like where in the room they're measuring, is that the whole room?
Right.
I don't know.
At the speaker, or is it, yeah.
I on a couple different occasions, you know, at the church we had a dB meter, and I would just pull it out during our practices, and we would run like 115 dB without earplugs.
Yeah, of course.
Because who needs those?
You don't want to hear everything forever.
What do you need to know before you buy your first tube amp?
Buy earplugs.
Get some earplugs.
You know, yeah. I mean, honestly, every amp, like, you know, the little 5 watt thing back here, like, I don't want to run that full time, full blast. Like that would damage my hearing. I think we've done this.
We did it.
We did it. First sponsor, Chase Bliss.
Yeah, this first sponsor for this episode is Chase Bliss Audio.
Huge thanks to Chase Bliss for sponsoring this nonsense once again.
They make pedals more creative than you are.
And better looking, too.
Head on over to Chase Bliss Audio. I don't know if they've done it already, but they're doing a kind of a giveaway deal with some builts that have moods.
Those aren't giveaways. Those are charity auction.
Charity auction.
Charity auction, my man. Like,
yeah, so keep an eye out on that. That means they're going to go for... Well, charity auction means you can buy it cheap and then put it on Reverb for 10 times the price.
I don't think any of those are going for cheap. I think those are going...
No, it means you could probably get one of those for like $10,000 and then...
Oh, yeah, flip it for 50.
And then relist it on Reverb for $100,000.
You don't want to lose money on this. Get in on the ground floor. But anyways, those built guitars with the built-in moods are just kiss. Just
they're
beautiful.
doing a lot of really creative stuff over there. So go check them out.
Check out Chase Bliss Audio, and might as well check out Built as well to see those guitars.
Hey, they didn't sponsor this.
Yeah. Well, I think Chase Bliss would be fine with us including Built in this situation. So this first ad was sent to us by Mark.
Yep.
De Bruyne.
These are Belgian guitars.
Yeah, the last couple images. Well, the last image describes it all because he did a translation for us from French.
From French.
Yeah, it was in French.
Oh, I gotta get over there.
2 superb guitars by a local artisan luthier. Flying V revisited for metal with... Okay, so this is finally a Flying V for metal with quadbucker pickup.
You're doing this all wrong. Okay, Mark says the ad is in French, so we have to read it. So actually, I have to read it. Super Rich Steve will have to read it using the same accent he uses to scold sommeliers who mispronounce the names of grapes and chateaus.
This is going to be super annoying. This is a big block of text, Steve.
2 super reverb guitars! Oh, no. 2 superb guitars by local artisan luthier. Flying V revisited for metal with quadrubucker pickup. In a wood mounting of 8... I can't do this.
I wish you wouldn't. I think it's too much text to read. Let's look at the pictures and then go back to the text.
Wait, oil bath machine heads? Got a machine head. It's better than red.
You know, I like the little twist on the melody that you did there. Like you're like one hipster girl with a ukulele away from reworking that song.
Machine head.
This take on a Flying V is wild, and the other guitar is wild. This person likes extreme pickups. I'll say that. In the Flying V, he's got quad rails, which is like an affront against nature and God. You are spitting in the face of God when you put quad rails in your guitar.
I really like that. So this Flying V shape is kind of Randy Rhoads.
Yeah, it really leans into sharp angles.
I like it. I actually think I like it.
You like that?
I want a Flying V. I don't personally want a Flying V like this, but I wish there was like a production Flying V.
It's kind of like the Kerry King V, but not stretched out. Not stretched out quite enough. The V shape is too shallow. I kind of admire their dedication to symmetry with the design. The output jack is right in the... Would you call that the crotch or the armpit of the V?
It depends.
It's the nether regions of the V. So you're plugging direct into the crotch. The volume and tone knob are lined up dead center behind the bridge. And you have a sheet of what I assume is steel as mirrored pick guards on either side of the guitar, leaving you with a center stripe of wood about the width of the neck. It's a lot. It's very home done looking. It looks very backyard shed wood shop.
Stainless steel cover on both wings.
I kind of like the extra pointy headstock. They did the arrow headstock, and then they did a metal cover over the entire front. Like, I think it's fun doing a 4x2 tuner setup on the arrow headstock, but every chunk of wood that you can see on this guitar looks like the roughest backyard wood shop you've ever seen in your life. Even the way the metal's cut out, it's like, okay, you did your best. And then going extreme with the pickup to have the quad rail. The thing that really catches my eye with the V is when you get a shot of the back of the neck, like this close-up of the back of the headstock. It's like, oh man, this looks like it was whittled.
Oh, yeah.
Like someone whittled the curves into this with a pocket knife. And then you see the close-up of the back of the neck, and it looks like like that furniture grade oak where you can feel the grain. You know what I mean?
I don't. You know what though? If they finish this right, it could actually. They could kind of give you that. What's it? The Dean Zielinski guitars where they did the dimple back.
Right.
It could kind of give you something like that.
Or it would give you splinters.
We're all one or the other.
But it doesn't look like guitar neck wood. It looks like rustic oak furniture wood. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if the neck was oak.
Okay, you got to explain this to me.
Okay, there's a whole other guitar here besides the Flying V.
How the hell is this a Telecaster?
Is that what it's listed as?
They called it a Super Telecaster.
There's nothing about this Telecaster.
Parentheses blues type sounds with 14K ohm humbuckers.
No, they got so many details wrong on their own guitar. I can visually tell you that this is not a blues type toned guitar. It's double loaded with invaders.
Yeah.
What the hell, dude?
It's a Paduk and maple luthier. Classy. Bolt-on maple neck with Paduk fretboard.
Also, bolt on the rest of the body. There are giant, like, hex bolts. Like, I'm talking almost the size of the knobs. How many? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14 of these giant hex bolt things on the top of the guitar. What in a pattern that would make you think, oh, this is to hold on a pick guard in some sort of creative way. There's no pick guard involved. It's just raw wood with these giant metal studs sticking out of it.
Would you? Okay, I got a question.
The headstock looks like a decorative medieval weapon, but not in a cool way, in like a very lame way.
Oh my gosh. When you count frets on a guitar that has a 0 fret, do you count the 0 fret? The 0 fret is 0,
that's
right?
0. Oh, the nut on this.
Because
is, you know, a 0 fret usually has a nut behind it. This guitar has a 0 fret. Instead of a nut, it's got 3 string trees. I didn't think that was going to be so funny to me.
No,
as I read, he's using string trees.
It does have 3 string trees, but
he's using the string trees as the string guide retainer instead of a nut.
No, I don't. Okay, so I zoomed in on some other pictures, and I think it's. So I think the fretboard is raised far enough away from the headstock that part of the fretboard is actually notched.
There are notches in the fretboard, but I still believe in my heart that the string trees are the guides for the strings.
The string trees are definitely doing the bulk of the work here. No doubt about that.
I mean, it's kudos to this guy to legitimately building a neck. Like, that can't be easy to do, especially if you're working with this level of woodworking skill.
And all you've got is a pocket knife.
I don't want to diss this dude. Like, his work is cleaner than mine. That's not saying a lot, but yeah, I'm not going to make a neck in my garage.
This not only has a compound radius, but the neck changes shape as you move down.
Oh, I bet it does. You know what? There's people who do compound radiuses intentionally. I think there's people who end up with a compound radius neck. And I have a feeling that might be the case here. I always worry that the people who built these guitars are going to end up, being sent the show and they're going to hear us trash on these. If you're listening, person who built these, you did much better than I did. I'm impressed with anyone who builds a neck and could do fretwork and stuff like that. But you have to laugh along with us. There's a reason you sold these and they're not in your personal collection anymore. You have to find this funny, right?
So that being said,
oh, and by the way, it doesn't just. Oh wait, that was the V had. Oh my gosh. Okay, I got mixed up. The V has a Floyd Rose nut on it.
Yeah,
but I don't think it has a trim.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't.
Why does it have a Floyd Rose? It doesn't have a trim on it. Like the reason the micro adjusters are there because when you clamp those down,
it pulls the string.
There's a very real possibility of pulling the strings out of tune. So if you clamp a Floyd Rose nut and you don't have a Floyd Rose micro adjusting bridge,
so I can't speak to the value of American.
I need another drink.
American used goods in Europe.
Steve needs another drink as well.
But he says that he would possibly swap this for a Blues Deluxe. So he's valuing like both of these guitars at like what's that, like $500 to $600 maybe?
Yeah, somewhere in there, I guess.
But before that, he says can be tested in practice room on tube amps and multi effects, open to all reasonable offers. Or else go to Thomann and buy a Harley Benton built by slaves using materials pillaged from Africa.
Damn, dude. It sounds like you made these because you hate Thomann.
Mark says the first guitar is indeed V-shaped, though hardly similar to a Flying V. I have no idea what he doesn't even know, and he's also in Europe. He doesn't know why it's called a Telecaster or a French. He says, I wonder if French speakers use the name Telecaster as a sort of general term for all hardtail electric guitars.
Maybe.
Oh my gosh. One of the
the guy selling this isn't the builder.
No, maybe it is.
Oh.
One of the pros of the Flying V, because you noticed how it was practically symmetrical.
Right.
One of the pros is that you could switch this to lefty and you don't have to worry about the controls being in the wrong place.
So here's the thing. Lefty guitarists, I've spent some time in lefty groups because they hate me. But lefty guitarists, I'm telling you this right now. They want there to be more guitars on the market for them, and there should be more guitars on the market for them. But that desire isn't for this. Isn't for a backyard made, act of love that someone made without, maybe it's their third or fourth guitar they've ever built, and it shows. They want lefty versions of commercially available guitars that are up to spec as playable guitars. They don't want backyard, hobby pieces. It is, technically, yes, you can reverse it and make it lefty. So yeah, there you go. I wouldn't wish this on a lefty who was, needed a guitar to be converted to a lefty. Like there's other guitars you can get to do that.
I should have read this differently. Or else go to Thomann and buy Harley Benton built by slaves using materials pillaged from Africa. That's it. I'm done. No more French for me. My Dutch is much better.
We'll let the Dutch judge that, or we'll let the French judge that, Steve. No, I think a French person listening to that would be like,
"Oh, sacre bleu!"
Yeah, his French is, his Dutch is definitely a lot better than that. Whatever his Dutch is, it's better than that massacring of our culture because it's not even their language.
This is a war crime.
Of course, this means war. That was my French accent. How did I do?
What's new with you, man?
Oh, we're gonna do what's new in minute 54 of the podcast.
Hey, before you do what's new, if you'd like to support the show, head on over to patreon.com, where for as little as $1 a month, you can take part in this ridiculousness. You know what? We're gonna start shipping out. Dude, you talked about that last episode.
I know, but people need to know because next episode is when we'll have the address.
Yeah, that's true.
So find a postcard. Think about a letter you're going to write us. We're going to have a PO box. You send us your letters, your physical letters, old school. We're going to have a PO box, guys. And what we're going to do is we're going to, every episode we're going to pull one, maybe a couple letters out of the box, and we're just going to send them pedals from this diaper box full of Affordaboard pedals I have, and apparently possibly hundreds of Azor reverbs that Azor has sent me by this time. So we need to cycle stuff out. You're going to get it for free. We're going to take money out of the Patreon fund to ship all this stuff out to you, like literally hundreds of pedals that we need to get rid of here. And we want to put them in your pockets on your pedal boards. So if you want to help support those efforts, for the time being, as far as I understand it, we're going to be paying out of the Patreon. Maybe we'll have a sponsor someday, but if you want to support people getting pedals for free, there's a good reason.
All right, so what's new? Can we talk about this?
Let's talk about this.
Did you talk about this whiskey yet?
I did a little bit on a live stream, I think.
Yeah. So this is really good.
Mm-hmm.
Say that.
I'll say I think the first time I tried it, I was like, I don't know if I like this. But then like the more I've had, the more like I appreciate its unique qualities.
Yeah. Yeah.
It has it says Iowa corn bourbon on the back. Like I feel like you can taste the corn.
I feel like you can taste the Iowa.
Oh yeah. I mean the Iowa is up front, like front of mouth, but the corn was the surprise because it's not every time you actually taste corn in what you're drinking. But I feel like if I put a pat of butter in this, it would taste like an alcoholic corn on the cob. It's not that corny, but I'm like getting that. There's a corn sensation. You know what I mean?
So I think,
yeah. Have you guys, when was the last time you had that corn sensation?
This was sent to you by Basement Guitar Superstar.
Check out his channel. Maybe we'll remember to put the link down below. Make a note, Steve. There we go.
Making a note.
Steve makes notes and things happen. Eventually.
Your wife isn't here, so I can be annoying.
Dude, are you telling me that you haven't been annoying this whole time?
I have not been annoying for the previous 397 episodes. Today is the first day.
Finally, Steve can let loose and be annoying. All right, be annoying. What's new?
No, what I was going to say is I feel like I have a greater appreciation for this because I've been drinking the Kirkland. I think did I talk about this already?
I don't know.
They have a bottled and bond Kentucky bourbon that's basically replaced their small batch bourbon. It's also very good.
Oh, okay.
It's different than this. It's a little. I think it's actually smoother, but it's by being smoother, it's a little like less interesting.
I could see that.
I think it's also very good.
I like the flavor. I like the warmth of the booze. It does have a bite to it. It's not like velvet smooth or anything like that. But yeah, it's a fun drinker. I was honestly a little surprised I left so much for you to have. So what else is new, Steve?
Basement Guitar Superstar did request that you leave me at least one pour.
I did. I left you a couple.
What's new with me? Well, last week, I got all those big ear pedals, which means I think I am in position to. I still need to build this.
Yeah,
still need to build.
We need to get Robert over here too.
Need to figure out a time to do that. But I'm going to put together, like I did with all the Caroline pedals I have, I'm going to put together a big ear board. And in order to do that, I bought a PT Junior from a friend of the show, RJ Smith from Teletalks. And
cool.
And I guess the Just Surprise Me podcast.
I think that's it. The Just Surprise Me podcast.
Yeah.
Which is filthy, by the way. Don't let your children listen to that.
Yeah. Don't let your adults listen to that.
It's not for human consumption.
They had a recent episode where they went through their list of patrons.
And it was all miscreants.
And decided, and they were all like, which ones of these, like if you had to have sex with your patrons, your Patreon supporters, who would they be?
Well, Steve, maybe that's a good prompt for us to make some Patreon content.
There's only like there's only like 7 people on that list. So
it's a short list. Did you get picked?
Yeah.
I knew it.
Also, I do want to say one thing about that show. That episode that was really funny is because they were talking about us not having sex with us, only having sex with me. And
I was left out.
Well, you're not.
I'm not a Patreon.
You're not a Patreon.
Yeah.
And they
now I won't be.
and they go, and of course RJ knows both of us, but I guess he probably hasn't seen you in a while. But he goes like, oh yeah, like he's like, of the two of them, like Ryan has a much better body. Like Steve's just so like lanky and bony, and I was like, I think I've got you by like 10 pounds.
I don't think of you as lanky at all.
I guess
I don't think of you as fat.
In RJ's brain, compared to you, I'm extremely thin, and you are a large, like obese man. I don't know.
Yeah, your arms are probably bigger than mine right now.
No, my arms are smaller. I think my arms are smaller than yours. I just think I'm fatter.
You've always had more leg muscle than me.
That's true.
Like I have very attractive calves, but you've always had more leg. You've always had them baseball legs.
I don't know what that means.
I don't know either. Them baseball legs.
But yeah, so I got a PT Junior from RJ. I went over there. We had some burritos, and also I gave him money. And I got a PT Junior. So I'll be putting that together. I'm probably going to use the Zuma. I've got a Strymon Zuma I'll be using to pedal everything, or power everything.
To pedal all your power.
Now, the thing that will be interesting about that board is because I have some limiteds and some kind of things that are the same, like the Black Betty and the Betty White are the same circuit in 2 different colorways. So I'm just going to put it all on the board. And so by the time that board's done, it will have 3 fuzzes on it. Oh my gosh. 2 that are the same, 1 that's an octave fuzz. It will have 2.
It sounds like a stereo rig to me, dude.
It will have 2 Albies on it.
Stereo rig.
If there's, I'll have to see how much room it is, because with the exception of the Chaka, they are all like this size box, which the 125 box. So maybe I can put the HX Stomp on it and do that, like run a stereo in, stereo out. I guess
you can run stereo in and stereo out of it.
But I need something to do a stereo. I need something to split to do. And I don't know. Anyway, I got that stuff. It's very cool. I'm very excited about it. Excited to put this board together. That's it. You don't have anything else new?
You didn't ask me.
I did ask you, and then we talked about the whiskey, and then you asked me.
That's true. Okay. I went to Sweetwater and I came back, and you guys already know that because it's been like 2 weeks. But I thought I would tell a fun story. I guess it's a bit of a demo guy brag, or
demo guy brag.
Minor celebrity. It sounds too big.
You're a minor celebrity?
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? You could be a minor celebrity. There's room for you now, because Shaq today, on the day that we recorded this, renounced his celebrity status. He said he doesn't want to be a celebrity.
So now, according to celebrity law, we divide his portion of celebrity, and everyone becomes a little bit more celebrity.
Yeah, so you can now be a minor celebrity.
I hate that I said the word celebrity now.
But also like 3 teenage girls also, because we just divide Shaq's volume.
Everyone on TikTok got a fraction of a percent.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
Okay. A person who is known brag. So
are you the person who's known?
I'm the person who's known within our very small niche of the world. Niche of the world. Niche of the guitarists are a small group of all things. Like, this isn't as big of an industry as we think it is. It's not as big of a market as we think it is. It's big, but there's so many things that are so much huger, especially just like the online culture. So like getting recognized in public, getting spotted in public,
right?
It happens.
Yeah.
But it always feels like, what are the odds of like running into that person here at the county fair and they're selling jacuzzis, and now I'm talking to someone who's seen me on YouTube or whatever. But in the hotel that Sweetwater put me up in when I was out there,
I was getting sexy.
They were having this big medical insurance convention in the hotel.
Not as sexy.
Not as sexy. For at least 2 nights, I thought about trying to sneak in line and steal some of their catering. But it was like, I didn't look the part. Everyone was in polo shirts and khakis and stuff like that, and I didn't have anything even close to that. I'm not as high fashion as those lawyery medical people. But anyways, I'm posting pictures from being at Sweetwater and being in the area, and someone like message or comments on Instagram, and they're like, "Are you staying in the Courtyard Marriott?" I'm like, "Yeah," and he's like, "I'm staying there too. I'm with the medical insurance convention." I was like, "Whoa, that's crazy! What a coincidence!" So I met up with that guy one night, and we hung out for like an hour or something like that in the lobby, and just made small talk, and it was great. It was great to meet you. And then,
but you don't matter enough for Ryan to name drop you.
I'm sorry, I forgot your name. I also forgot the next person in the story's name. The last day I'm at Sweetwater, I'm filming on the floor with, like my travel rig.
His name was Adam. He's the one who won the contest.
No, it wasn't Adam Miller, whose name I absolutely know. I forget the guy's name. I'm sorry. But anyways, I'm filming on the floor, and this guy walks into the Sweetwater store, and he makes eye contact with me, and his like jaw drops. And he's like, I came here to buy the Supro Delta King 15. And I've watched your video on it like 5 times this week. What the hell are you doing here? Like, he was legitimately shocked. Come to find out, he was also in town for the medical convention and staying in the hotel. Like, that's bonkers. Like, there's 2 people.
But like while he was there, he decided to swing by Sweetwater.
Yeah, it's literally a 6-minute drive from downtown.
Okay.
But what are the odds of that? When you think about how small all this actually is, like, this is a channel of 80...
the first guy's name was Ben. I found the comment.
It was Ben. I don't know the other guy's name. I'm sorry, I'm terrible. But I do remember that he lives in Florida, and his wife and him want to play local open mic nights because he thinks that they can smoke everyone else who's playing. I remember those details. I remember intimate details of the conversation. I just don't remember your name. So how about that, Steve? I don't forget everything. I'm not impersonable. But anyways, like, you think about the odds of it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not, I'm not small in this scene. I'm not huge, but I'm not a movie star. Like, it's odd to get spotted at all.
Well, and the thing is when you first started this story, I thought you were going to talk about, like, because I saw some messages too that were like Sweetwater employees that were like, "Oh man, I saw you in the app room," and I'm like, well, and so I thought that's where you were going to go, and I was going to like just destroy your ego and be like, well, yeah, man, you're at Sweetwater and you're basically a flippin' Sweetwater employee now. So, like, of course they know who you are.
No, Sweetwater employees, especially the sales team, are up on
they're all musicians.
They're up
one
on
way or another.
They're up on all the YouTubers. Like, they just are. Like, everyone, they know about them. So, anyways,
they know who they
know about us now,
and they know who they hate.
But to go into to be visiting,
you know who you are. You know who you are. You know which side of that line you fall on. You know.
I like where this is going. You know. Come on.
All right.
Admit it. To be staying out of town, visiting for a couple days.
That is good.
End up in a hotel where they're hosting a convention for a completely different industry.
Yeah.
And as far as I know, 2 people that are familiar with a channel that is under 100,000 subs. I'm under 90,000 subs. When you think of the population of the country, it makes no sense. Like, the odds make no sense. To have 2 people coming to the same medical convention, and as far as we know, there could have been 5 or 6 people there at the medical convention who were guitarists. But like, the odds is just baffling to me. Like, it doesn't make sense. It makes me think that we live in a simulation. What are you're looking up baseball people now?
Some dude.
I told you he had baseball legs.
Some guy crashed into a wall at the Padres-Dodgers game, Gavin Lux, and apparently they pulled him out, and it sounds like maybe he's very injured.
Did someone text you about that?
No, I was on Instagram trying to figure out who these people were.
Well, the other person wasn't on Instagram.
That's fair.
But if he's watching around, get in the comment section. Tell us how you like the Supro.
Also, we need 15.2 thousand subscribers by the end of the year to hit 100K. So I'm just putting it out there.
It's not going to happen by the end of the year.
It could if you guys help us out.
All right, guys. Every time a bell rings, an angel gets its wings. Every time you clap, you bring a Tinkerbell back to life. If everyone right now whistles the Andy Griffith theme show music, this YouTuber might just get 100,000 subscribers.
I wanted to put something out there, but I can't because this is all mostly your stuff, I guess. But I was gonna say, we should just be like, if you hit 100,000 by the end of the year, to give something away. But that puts you in a horrible spot.
I would do it. But I don't think people would be, you know, I could just say it. I could just say, if that happens, that I'll give a guitar away, a personal guitar of mine. Not an affordable guitar, a personal guitar.
We'll have to figure out a way to do that. December 31st, 2021.
But how do we pick the winner? And who do we give it away to? Because it's not, it wouldn't be, we wouldn't know who the last person to subscribe is. Like,
we give it away via Squid Game.
what's that?
It's a TV show.
I haven't watched it. Oh, is that on Netflix?
You need to
It's
watch
like a battle royale thing, right?
You need to watch it.
Okay, so we're saying fight to the death? I'll watch it.
You need to watch it.
I'll watch it.
It's really good.
I believe you.
I didn't like the way it ended. Oh, man. But it's mostly really good. It's like 99% good.
Okay, Steve.
And then the ending was like, oh,
you've convinced me. I'll skip the ending. I'll just stop watching it. Like Steve said, the ending wouldn't be good, so I'm not going to finish it to find out. And then I'll imagine the perfect ending, and I'll be like, "That was the ending."
I wish I would have done that. All right. Anyway,
I was hoping a little bit that Steve would figure out the odds of meeting two people in the hotel.
Meeting two people in the hotel from 84.8 thousand subscribers
divided by the population.
Divided by the population of the world.
No, well, I guess we could do the world.
It could be. You don't know what kind of event that was. Was it an American medical?
It was. It was for an American company.
How many people work in the medical devices industry? Do we know?
No, it wasn't medical devices. It was medical insurance.
Well, everybody in the world should have medical insurance if they can. So 2 divided by 84.8 thousand divided by 7 billion times 248 million.
He's holding his phone, but he's not using the calculator.
I think the odds of that are roughly somewhere between the land speed.
Oh my gosh, shut up.
Of a roadrunner and the swim speed of a bottlenose dolphin.
My hopes are dashed on the rocks. Guys, you guys figure out the odds of me running into two people staying in the same hotel as me in a city that I don't live in.
Fort Worth is weird too because it's only like a population of like what, like I don't want a few 100,000.
I don't want to diss on it. I don't see it as a destination city. I don't think their airport doesn't give off that vibe.
Fort Wayne. I just said Fort Worth. Fort
Wayne, Indiana.
265,000 people.
Damn it. Are we geography podcasting
Hell
right now?
yeah, we are. Pour me another. We got a lot of show to go, Ryan.
We're an hour, 13 minutes in, Steve.
We got 2 more ads and a sponsor spot.
Do the sponsor spot.
This next sponsor for the show is Big Ear Pedals. They made this guy. There's one on Reverb. I don't want to talk about that. There is one on Reverb. It's now $215.
I want to talk about the woodcutter.
Well, where is it?
It's on the shelf behind you because I was using it today. I was having some fun noodling around, trying to do some high gain metally stuff. And I used 2 pedals. I used the woodcutter, and then I was going back and forth between a different pedal that I will not name, which does sound good.
Woodcutter!
But they were both high gain pedals, and the woodcutter, like if you want a demonstration of what jumps out of the mix and what's behind the mix, like it didn't matter the volume, the woodcutter was way on top of the mix compared to the other distortion pedal.
I think this is about the settings that I run. Right about there.
Right about there.
You guys are wondering.
Let me see. Oh yeah, that's good. Yeah, I'd do something about that. I tend to have the tone probably a little bit darker.
You barely turned it.
I know, but I'm saying we're really close. We're really close. I think gain, I'd probably go like
you go
other side of the clock.
I'm not down with low gain rat.
That's not low. That's still mid gain.
Yeah, I mean, I guess
low gain is like underneath that.
I'll say this: the woodcutter.
None of you can see this. So.
Yeah, I know the woodcutter is a fantastic rat style pedal. I think it's one of the best on the market.
Like if you
trust me, I've played like a rat and the woodcutter, and it's great.
It's one of those flavors of rats that kind of pushes further into the overdrive side than the fuzz side. Because rat's like
that's fair.
Rat's a distortion technically, but sometimes it pushes into a more fuzz character. So some people think of it as a fuzz, and sometimes it pushes softer and warmer.
Well,
and the woodcutter pushes softer and warmer.
I think a big component of that is I don't feel like the woodcutter, for whatever reason, and I've never really understood why. It doesn't get as nasal as my Rat does. So there's something about this specific circuit that gets that Rat distortion character, but doesn't really have like the super.
It's a softer filter.
It's not as 80s.
Yeah, because some
it's
Rats
not super 80s.
Some Rats is like racking like the most dramatic mid hump on an equalizer you've ever seen. Just like
no, that's mine. That's something, once you get
Coco should make a Rat phaser where that,
oh my gosh,
the tone, the filter just oscillates and it's a Rat phaser because they can't put out any pedal that's not just a Rat with a modification.
Anyway, sorry. BigEarPedals.com. Subscribe to their mailing list. They are a very small shop. Grant and Karen work hard to build pedals, but of course there's only 2 of them. So, you're going to get a batch of this, a batch of that. They got this guy, the Albee.
We found out.
Albee. But you got a batch of this, you got a batch of that. And, so you got to get on that mailing list so you find out when those new batches come out. Follow them on Instagram. Follow them everywhere you can follow them.
Yeah.
And then you'll know when a batch comes out.
Sometimes I want you to
these Albees come out in sometimes 10 of them come out at a time because they're weird colors. I think one of them came out. There's literally one in a limited color by a friend of the show, friend of mine, I don't know, Gear Ant, who does some refinishing work. He did a refinish on an Albee. They sold that one. It was literally up on Instagram. This is for sale. It was gone 30 minutes later.
Wow.
What were you going to say, Ryan?
I don't remember.
Woodcutter.
Woodcutter, get it. Get it till it's gone. Follow.
Get it till it's gone.
Follow Big Ear so closely that they nearly have to file a restraining order. That's how closely we want you to follow Big Ear on social media.
Don't follow us that close. We have families.
All right. Another ad, and then we'll wrap it up.
We got 2 more ads, man.
We don't have to do them both.
We do. It's the law. This is a CGB Fiddle. CGB stands for Cigar Box Guitar. This also comes with a Telecaster, apparently. This sticker, what the hell does this sticker say? Love
res dogs. Oh, they love reservation dogs.
What's the show reservation dogs?
I think that's a term of endearment. Or among our friends that live on reservations, or maybe it's a total insult, but they've appropriated it.
No, you know what? I think you're right. Oh, is that a bad thing to say about Canada? I think it is.
It's okay. We can insult Canada on this show.
Looking to downsize and trade one of my 2 guitars for 1 guitar, or sell them. I have a Squire VM Tele Custom and a Buddha Fiddle shaped CBG with a Journey passive acoustic guitar, and an electric mini bucker with a single volume knob. Don't be shy to shoot me an offer, Thanks.
Sorry.
So I do suspect Love Res Dogs.
I bet in Canada sometimes they do say sorry at the end of their act.
I do suspect Love Res Dogs is probably, this is in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan.
Yes.
The capital of Saskatchewan. Shit. Is Regina?
Oh my gosh, what is happening on this show right now?
Is it Regina or is it Regina? Very confusing. Anyway, it's in Saskatoon. I think this is some kind of there is that show on Netflix.
Does this qualify as a drunkisode yet?
Isn't there a show on Netflix called what's bad about this being a drunkisode is that we started drinking this episode.
I know.
Reservation Dogs is 4 indigenous teenagers in rural Oklahoma steal, rob, and save.
I know there's a show called it.
But it's it's written by Taika Waititi. Of course it was. and some other people.
There's always those other people.
Well,
taking all the credit.
Wow. Sterling Harjo and Bobby Wilson. Bobby!
Right, I know it's a show. I've seen a couple episodes and it's fun.
This has got...
But I don't know if that's a term that gets used outside of that show.
We were going to say Native...
It looks like a skate brand sticker.
We were going to say Native Americans first, but this is in Canada, so they are First Nations.
Right. Which I only realized recently when you corrected me on that.
Yeah, we are very cultured here and woke.
Look out, we're woke.
They are asking Canadian...
People are scared right now. There's a couple of people that are scared because they just realized we just got infected with woke.
Canadian US dollars. Canadian dollars, 1,234. So I think that's not a real price. I kind of feel like this is a deal where all of the...
Oh, you're saying it's not a real price because it's literally 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Dude, my car the other day was 75,432 miles. That was pretty sick.
Nice.
No, 76,543
So you just pulled over to the side of the road to preserve it and you walked away.
No, I took a picture while driving 80 miles an hour down the freeway. This is San Diego, bro.
Don't want to be late for fish tacos, bro. What if San Diegans talked like that?
I wish we did.
Yeah, bro.
I feel like this is trying to sell the VM Tele Custom, and the fiddle, cigar box fiddle thing is kind of just like, it's an add-on. It's like when, hey, if you buy this amp, I'll throw in this DS1 that's been sitting on my shelf for 60 years that I've never played.
Well, what's funny about this is that I saw this ad and I was like, oh, that might be a refreshing take on a cigar box guitar. Oh, and it comes with a telly. Right. You know, the telly is fine.
How much?
But it's like, that was like, if I saw this ad for just this telly, I wouldn't be like, we got to do this ad. There's a telly in it.
Let's get to the real tent. We know you're going to cut like 40 minutes out of this episode and make it normal.
No, I am not. This will be full length. The full length of 3 hours and 86 minutes. So if the episode is any shorter than that, you know that I did end up cutting stuff out. But I promised you I won't.
Christ, I got to go home at some point, man. You are now holding me hostage. How much would you pay for this?
Oh, for the cigar box guitar? Or
no, for the whole
bundle?
For this bundle.
Well, that's a Squire. It looks like an older Squire. I don't know anything about if those have a collector's market at this point, but I'm assuming they don't. So I'm going to assume its value is roughly $400. The cigar box guitar I would value on a good day like $150, but probably most people would want to pay
convert to Canadian
$125. So what did I just say? That's $525, eh? Hey, what's this all about? How do I convert 525 Yank dollars?
Yank dollars?
Yank bucks. Yankaroos.
Is Yank bucks like the white trash version of OnlyFans?
It should be. Hey,
we got a page. We got a Patreon.
Check it out. Yankbucks.com. Get over here right now.
You ever think about
It's a Bible study website.
You ever think about putting a second camera over here that's just waist down to run for your OnlyFans?
I'm gonna get Yankbucks.com and then I'm gonna sell it to Weird Al Yankovic, and he's gonna name his next album that because it's such a good name.
Yankbucks.com. A server with the specified hostname could not be found. That means it's for sale.
Yankbucks.com. No one who sees that link is going to want to click it. That is the worst idea ever to materialize between the two of us. Yankbucks.com. It's almost got to be a t-shirt. Because it could...
Just keep talking. I got to find out how much Yankbucks.com is.
Steve is about to be rich. He's going to be the owner of Yankbucks.com.
Holy hell! $5 a year?
Is that good or bad?
That's dirt. Dude, do you not know how much our URL costs?
No, I don't.
You just pay the bill now, right?
I don't know how much it costs.
I pay like, I think I pay to maintain my website, which has not been updated in several years. I think I pay like 30 or 40 bucks every 2 years.
Okay.
This is $5 for the first year with a 2-year registration.
I don't want to lose money.
Crazy.
And it's a full.com too. Are you buying it?
No, I'm not going to actually buy it. I'm not a McElroy.
We don't have that McElroy money floating around. Okay. I don't know, Steve. What do you value these two guitars that we're back? We're back to a guitar show.
If I convert this to Canadian, I feel like they're probably asking about $600 to $700.
I guess that's not too far off the mark. But we do think that number's made up, right?
1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. I think that's made
that
up.
can't be.
No, they say don't be shy to shoot me an offer. They're basically saying shoot me an offer. Yankbucks.com is going to cost me $11 a year. So basically like $5 for the first year, $18 for the second year. And then after that, it's going to cost me,
oh my gosh,
$18 a year.
You don't need a website. You need a cryptocurrency.
Dude, I have a website. I literally renew.
No, I'm saying we've got to start Yank Bucks cryptocurrency. People aren't going to be talking about Bitcoin in you. They're going to be talking about Yank Bucks.
You're saying we should figure out. We should
it's
have
the
somebody,
new Dogecoin. It'll be popular just because of the name. Hey man, Yank Bucks to the moon, through the moon.
If you're a coder, you know anything about how to code crypto? Let us know. We're looking for Yank Bucks. We want to Yank Bucks is the current. Yank Bucks is the best currency to buy, sell, and trade guitar gear without getting on that government watch list. I feel
like Yank Bucks should just be slang for anything you buy with throwaway money. You're like, oh yeah, I just threw away more money on my hobby. More Yank Bucks. It works.
I'm gonna say 600, man. Well, because I'm saying this is $450.
We're back.
US, like $400 to $450 plus the cigar, plus whatever else. I'm gonna put this.
No one cares about the ad at this point.
Canadian.
People listening right now are just listening because they're watching monkeys fight in the zoo. Like,
dude, I hope so.
That's all this is. You're just watching animals in a cage. All right, get us out of the show, Steve. I don't want to do another ad.
All right, this last ad was sent by Michael Krause. No. This is a mutated starfish.
It's some home done art. It comes with a case.
This home done art, I do not understand this. This woman has a very long torso.
She's laying down sideways because the art's the wrong direction. It's kind of a splatter paint job with kind of like
custom painted guitar.
You know,
in mutated starfish design, original style guitar, Pantera's Dimebag Darrell, all in working order. Case included, reduced price, $150.
I will say, if Dean put out a Lisa Frank dime bag, I would buy that. Like, it had rainbows and unicorns. That shape needs that aesthetic ASAP. Let's get rid of the lightning bolts and the crazy stuff. And this is moving that direction. It's kind of a cutesy, like, tween girl style drawing.
I feel like it's not. I feel like they were trying to be sexy and just failed.
They might have been going that direction. But it's got kind of that, like... Yeah, I'm not going to say.
I really think the person who's drawing this realized halfway through that, like, they were like, I'm really good at drawing boobs. I have no idea how to draw a lower
Okay, so
body.
you think this is a boob thing? No, to me, this doesn't read as male art. I think this was drawn by a woman.
I mean, this is being sold by a woman, so...
There's your answer then.
I don't know, man.
That's not no.
Well, if it's a woman who drew it, she was thinking...
That's not the way a horny teen draws boobs.
That's fair, But then, so then
that is the giveaway, dude. Just because the art on the guitar has boobs doesn't mean that some horny dude drew it. That's not how horny dudes draw boobs.
Either way, this is a person who knew how to draw an upper body and couldn't figure out how to draw a lower body.
They definitely don't know how to draw feet or hands.
Well, most people don't.
They're not that hard. They're not that hard. And there's professional comic artists out there who don't know how to draw feet or hands.
But apparently they're not that hard.
They're you know, they're not easy, but it's not like a nose. Have you ever tried to draw a nose?
Take it from failed graphic designer turned YouTuber. Right?
Failed?
No, I'm just kidding.
I was at the peak of my career, which wasn't anything too impressive, but I paid the bills.
You were very successful as far as
graphic designers
go.
That's true. I was probably
like
okay.
I
was for 2 years.
You weren't working for Nickelodeon by any means, but I mean, you were making a living.
Yeah,
which is more than a lot of people.
I bought a house,
which is more than making a living.
Right.
Now I feel like we need to get out of here.
Yeah.
This was sent by.
We just got awkward.
This was by. I was just giving you shit, man.
I'll take it.
I'm a mediocre scientist.
You give it, I take it.
This was sent by Clark Starace. He says,
we're a meme right now. We're the like, mediocre.
Yeah. Graphic design, science,
mediocre.
All right.
Okay, you guys screen grab that and meme that.
Hold on, we gotta hold it. So we gotta. All right.
Half of this has been a drunk cast.
New wiped out songs for a 60 Cycle Hum podcast. I can still read, man.
It's not bad.
Never mind. Really love the shout out when you played the other songs. Well, I'm giving you another shout out. Clark.
Shout out?
I mean, I haven't used a toilet in a while, so. These songs come out on June 4th. Ooh, we're a little behind. On streaming platforms, but I wanted to send it to you a little early so you can try to slot them in on the show while they're still fairly new. Well, I mean, June is kind of close to October, I guess. Mm-hmm. Attached is an original called Dude That Was Gnarly and a cover of the Ventures classic Walk Don't Run. I can honestly say I think that it's the most slamming version of Walk Don't Run I've ever heard. I think you guys will like it. Well, guess what? We're going to listen to this cover of Walk Don't Run, and if it's not slamming enough, we're going to get cease and desisted by the Ventures.
So we're trying to judge slam or not slam.
Surfmeister.
Okay. that drummer,
That was sick.
like
that was
that's like the drummers at the wrong gig sort of situation. I like a drummer that just drops bombs instead of babysitting the cymbals. You know, like it was just like thud 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 thud. Jesus.
This is okay. So
and when I say that, I'm not taking the Lord's name in vain. I'm praying.
I'm gonna say two things. One, if you made it this far, leave a comment in the YouTube. Or
if you made it this far, leave a rating and review on iTunes. Yeah. You earned it, whatever that means. Like say whatever you want.
And then two, we were not nearly this good, but that song is how I felt at CoFest. No, the Co-Down. Sorry, the Co-Down. When you started doing the cake take on I Will Survive.
Oh, yeah.
And I feel like I looked around at the 5 people who were there, and they recognized that we connected and that I knew that you were playing the cake version, and just started dropping that sick bass.
Oh, it was so
sick.
It was so sick he threw up.
Yeah, well, that's because I had too much to drink. No, I mean, it just that was rad. Thanks, Clark.
Oh, that was a treat.
Yeah,
thank you.
When it first started, I was like, okay, a little, okay. Oh my god!
Like I fully believe that if I was at a show and someone played that live, like there would be a mosh pit starting to form.
Yeah, that was rad.
Yeah, I want a whole album of that.
Well, there are other songs.
I know.
There's another song that we didn't play.
I know, but
You want to play it?
No, I want like this like mosh pit surf vibe.
Yeah,
like that was cool. That was cool. All right. Bye everyone.
Stay grounded.